What's up, college football addicts? I know you know the news. Yesterday, a teaser dropped, and we got a little bit more of a peek inside the new EA Sports college football video game. Sounds like we're going to have a July release. That had already been rumored by Dave Waters, Gator Dave, on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Kind of got a little bit of blowback from that. Oh, we're not confirming a date, this, that, and the other. I'd imagine he's probably going to end up being right. Late July release. We'll get more details or full details in May. But a really good video. Really got people hyped up by seeing the videos, seeing their teams, colors and jerseys and everything else inside of the teaser. Got us to thinking, what must this game include? And I'll tell you, you're probably not going to change too much about what's going on with this EA Sports video game. It's probably mostly ready to go, but you would hope that some of this stuff is included in the game. I'm going to give you my top 10 wants, needs, desires, whatever. This is an absolute must for the video game. And then I'll share a bonus one at the end, so make sure you stick around for that one. I think you'll all enjoy it the most. But the number one thing that has to exist in this video game is the aspect of NIL. The aspect of NIL that's not just, oh, if you come to a school, you get this much. No, there needs to be legit inducement going on. And I don't know if they'll be as bold to put this in the game or not, but that's what college football is. And so if you want to make this realistic, if you want to make this game really true to what college football is right now, it needs to be in there. Now, college football may change in the next couple of years, and we may have players as employees and different things that may switch things up some, but until then, that needs to be part of the game. However, there needs to be some risk with it. And I mentioned this in another video on another channel, but there needs to be some risk where if you're inducing a player and he signs with your school, then all's good. He's not going to rat you out. But if you miss on said player, like happened in Florida State and Demarius Mims or Jaden Rashada in Florida and Miami, you may face some trouble from that. Now, not every kid's going to rat you out. There were certainly inducements that happened with recruits that those recruits didn't end up at the schools they were induced to, but you are running that risk. And so I'd love for there to be some penalties. Hey, you offered this kid this much money, you sent him this text, you have it in writing somewhere, you could potentially be facing some NCAA penalties. And I would love if they put that in. Give us some risk reward. Don't make the game so easy. Let us live on the edge a little bit. Number two, there needs to be a very heavy focus on the transfer portal. And that not just being you convincing guys to come to your school, but also trying to keep guys at your school, trying to get them to not transfer away. And it needs to be bigger and more of a process than just the off-season in NCAA 14, where you just had to basically, oh yeah, I promise you get more snaps next week. Okay, you're in. Now it needs to be a legit thing where you've got to really put a heavy emphasis, a heavy focus on the transfer portal. It is such a big part of our game right now. And if you're at a small school and you've got a kid that's wanting to transfer to Bama or Florida State or Georgia or whatever, it needs to be almost impossible to convince them to stay because it needs to be realistic. You need to have like a 1 in 100 chance of keeping them at your school. But if you're at a Georgia and you put all of your effort into keeping a guy or wanting to keep a guy, he needs to be able to stay. But it's obviously a tool for Georgia and Alabama and the powers that be to get rid of, process some guys, get rid of some of the guys on the roster so they can bring new guys in. Transfer portal, the craziness that happens in December needs to be a massive, massive focus of the game because it is a massive focus of our game right now. Whether you love it or hate it, it's a huge part of today's college football. There needs to be, number three, massive coaching staff expansion. I love the coaching trees when you had assigning skill points to your coaches, your coordinators. I'd love if they took that even further, where your actual coaches off the field matter, or on the field matter, but all 10, 11 guys that you've got actually matter. You make a good linebacker coach hire, you make a good safeties coach hire, you make a good running back coach. I know that's very detailed, and that's very intricate. Trust me, college football fans, fanatics, college people, addicted folks like you guys are that are watching, you'll like that stuff. Speaking of, if you are addicted to college football, I'll get through the other 7 points here in just a moment. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you're part of the channel. I'm going to do a lot around this video game, maybe even stream some of this video game later on, whether it's on this channel or another. Make sure you're part of college football addiction. Number 4, it needs to be its own gameplay feel. I'll tell you the best thing about NCAA, more than the players, more than the rivalries, more than hearing your own team's fight song, more than any of that, was that it had a distinct feel and it did not just feel like Madden with a different skin over top of it. I play Madden from time to time, usually when I go to a buddy's house, but I don't love the Madden gameplay. And I will be severely disappointed if this is just Madden with some garnet and gold or orange and blue or green and orange or crimson or black and red skins on top of it. That will be frustrating and annoying, and we'll still play it and we'll still love it, and maybe we'll get used to it. But it needs to feel different than Madden. It needs to feel like its own game. I think it's going to be based a lot on Madden, but I'm hoping they've tweaked enough to where it feels like it's its own thing. I think the Dynasty mode number 5 needs to be harder. I think it's too easy at times, and you really need to struggle. I think Madden did a better job with this as the years went on of not just making things so easy. I felt like it was so easy to dominate NCAA 14 in that Dynasty mode, and you could really just get rolling to where that thing just worked itself out, and you just basically simmed the season. You're always in the playoff or a BCS bowl, and then you always ended up with the number 1 recruiting class. It needs to be harder. And that leads me to number 6. The recruiting needs to be more realistic. We already mentioned the NIL. I'd love for that to be an inducement, but I'd love if that recruiting aspect was more realistic. You actually spend time doing things, not just assigning points here or there, but you really get in and have to make decisions with recruiting. I remember in certain games like Madden and FIFA where morale matters and the mood of your team matters. I'd love to see that on the team as well, but also in recruiting where morale matters. You lose a big game and maybe you drop a little bit. Your rival wins a big game and maybe they jump up a little bit. Not just, oh, they attended a game, they got 500 points. What? No, that's boring. Points are boring. Let's make it more relationship-based as opposed to just points. Make the recruiting more realistic. Number 7, there needs to be more Legends teams. We need to see some of those teams and some of those players that we haven't seen since 2013. The last year that the game was made was the year that the Seminoles won the national championship. Jameis Winston was on the game, and everyone else that was playing at that time, Johnny Manziel, others in college football. We need to see the 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 teams as well. Everything in between. Now, you don't have to put every team from every year on there, obviously, but let's just get some of those really good teams that we saw down through those years. All of Bama's run, Georgia's run, Ohio State winning a national championship in there, LSU, Joe Burrow. Let us get some of that as well. That'd be a lot of fun. Let us get some of those legendary players in the game as well. Number 8, what about like a draft mode? Let's take it all the way up through the NFL draft. I think this would be a really, really cool aspect. There was a slight component of this in NCAA 2014 where you could at least just see where guys were drafted, but take us up through the combine, take us up through pro day, take us up through the actual draft and get us to our team, and then let's export that over to Madden. I'm probably not going to buy Madden. I'm probably not going to play it, but for those that like to continue on with the story, let's get that part eligible and ready as well. I think a draft mode and a post-college career mode would be really cool. Kind of like Road to Glory, but keep it going. Keep that Road to Glory section going all the way through the NFL draft. Realignment aspect needs to be part of this game. Realignment is a huge, huge part of our college football landscape right now. The Pac-12 is now the Pac-2. The ACC is on the verge of blowing up. The SEC and Big Ten, who are they going to add? Are there ways that you can achieve leveling up? Are there ways that you can get demoted down to a lower level? That's maybe not as realistic. I don't think Vandy or Rutgers are getting kicked out of their conferences, even though they bring very little. But is there a way that if you win enough games, you could maybe get an invite to the Big 12? You could maybe get an invite to the Big 10. If you win enough championships, if your brand grows by enough, how might that aspect play into it? I think realignment would be a heck of a lot of fun. Now, I know you can just change conferences around and you can override settings and just change. That's not what I mean. I want actual realignment built into the Dynasty mode because that would be phenomenal. I don't necessarily know that they're going to have Florida State Board of Trustees meetings in the game or North Carolina Board of Governors meetings in the game, but I do think if realignment existed at all, it would be a ton of fun for this. Lastly, number 10, the online play needs to be expanded incredibly. Think about FIFA Ultimate Team. Think about Madden Ultimate Team. I'm sure games and modes like that will exist. Online Dynasty was a huge part of what we did when we had NCAA 14. I'd love if that continued to be a thing. I'd love a huge online dynasty with like 50 people in it. That would be insane. It would probably move at a snail's pace. You'd have to put regular, like, hey, we're advancing every Wednesday on it. But I think that'd be a lot of fun. An online dynasty that was just huge and massive would be so much fun. The NCAA Ultimate Team or Madden Ultimate Team kind of vibes would be a lot of fun. And then give us something new. Surprise us with something on it as well. Give us something on the online play that we haven't seen. We're not expecting. A copy of FIFA Ultimate Team or Madden Ultimate Team is expected. Online Dynasty is expected. Give us something new. Shock us a little bit with something fun with the online play. And then the last one, the bonus of what I would really like to see. I want you to be true to what this tweet right here says. The game's so realistic that Miami doesn't even have a kneel down play in it. I like this a lot. Obviously, a cheap shot at Mario and Miami for their finish against Georgia Tech. Listen, don't even put that in Miami's playbook. Miami is built different. They don't take knees. They're never done, right? Never done with the fight. Let's add that to the game as well. All right, I appreciate you guys tuning in. What do you like on my list? What do you not like on my list? What would you put in? What is the most important thing about this game to you? Honestly, for me, it's number 4. It's no Madden gameplay. Let's not make it feel like Madden. But I want to hear from you guys. Let me know down in the comments. How are you getting this game? Do you think video games are stupid? Whatever. Let's talk about it down below. Appreciate you guys for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed to College Football Addiction, and we'll talk to you guys soon.